Welcome to Homeschool Nolan, here to help you navigate learning in the digital age. In one of my previous videos, I talked about why you should still learn how to code, even if you don't plan on pursuing a career as a software engineer. That said, there are actually still a lot of coding jobs out there, but the job market for programmers and the nature of programming jobs has changed over the years. And in this video, I'd like to talk about the truth about coding jobs in 2024. When I started my career as a junior programmer way back in the 90s, writing code to me was all about writing programs to solve a particular problem. I remember back then that almost all the code I wrote was original in that I typed it into the computer from scratch. To save time though, I of course took advantage of APIs or calling functions that had already been written by someone else. As I gained more experience and started growing a larger body of work, I noticed that instead of writing code from scratch each time, I could copy and paste and edit a lot of reusable code that I had already written before. Well, fast forward to today. That's mostly what I do now when it comes to coding. Because here's the truth. Coding today is more about copying and editing code written by others than it is about you writing your own original code. There's so much free code samples freely available on GitHub and other public repositories out there that there's really very little need these days for most programmers to write anything original. A lot of times what you end up doing is copying code written by someone else and then editing it for your own use. But don't think for a moment that that makes coding any easier. It still takes skill and experience to be able to search through and navigate through all the available code samples out there and know how to edit it for your use case. And very often, when you take code written by someone else and try to implement it in your own projects, you will likely get some errors. And again, it takes skills and experience to be able to troubleshoot in order to get it to work. And of course, code can not only be written by someone else, but by AI as well. Some have suggested that AI can generate code, so we won't need human programmers. But here's the truth. You still need humans who know how to prompt the AI systems to write the right code. And in order to do that, you still need humans who understand coding. You need human beings who understand coding in order to evaluate the code that the AI has generated for you and decide whether you can use it or if it needs some editing and fine-tuning. In addition, what I found is that if you have decent programming skills, it's still often easier to just write the code yourself than to come up with the right prompt that generates the code. That said, I do believe that AI will likely eliminate many entry-level programming jobs. Jobs that are mostly taking boilerplate code and adapting it to small sections of a larger project where it's then later reviewed by more senior engineers. So the question becomes, how do you become an experienced software engineer if there are no entry-level jobs? Well, there are of course lots of online courses out there that are easily accessible on demand. They may sometimes lead you to think that if you sit through these courses, you can be a proficient programmer in just days or weeks. But here's the truth. There is still no substitute for experience when it comes to doing well in coding or just about any other technical profession. Back in 2008, Malcom Gladwell published this famous book called Outliers, where he tells the story of extremely successful people. What struck me was one chapter called The 10,000 Hour Rule, where Gladwell tells the story of legendary computer programmer Bill Joy and how he got into computer programming as a student at the University of Michigan in the early 70s. Here's what he wrote about Bill Joy. Quote, I lived in the North Campus and the computer center was in the North Campus, Joy went on. How much time did I spend there? Oh, a phenomenal amount of time. It was open 24 hours. I would stay there all night and just walk home in the morning. In an average week in those years, I was spending more time in the computer center than on my classes. All of us down there had this recurring nightmare of forgetting to show up for class at all, of not even realizing we were enrolled. He then goes on to write, At Michigan, I was probably programming 8 or 10 hours a day, he went on. By the time I was at Berkeley, I was doing it day and night. I had a terminal at home. I'd stay up until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning watching old movies and programming. Sometimes I'd fall asleep at the keyboard. Now, most of us won't need to be as fanatical as Bill Joy just to get a programming job. But the important lesson from this story that I took away is that his thousands and thousands of hours of experience gave him an edge. And in the highly competitive job market for coders these days, there is still no substitute for experience. As Andy Jassy, the CEO of Amazon, likes to say, quote, there is no compression algorithm for experience. So, if you have ambitions of pursuing a career as a software engineer or programmer, don't get discouraged if you initially don't find that entry-level job. Instead, find the time to code on your own so you can get the experience you need to have an edge on the competition. One more point I like to add is that even if you don't work as a programmer or software engineer as your official job title, it's still worth learning how to code if you work in the tech industry in other roles. Roles such as solutions architect, product manager, or tech sales or tech marketing. Because here's the truth. Although you won't necessarily get ahead by learning how to code, you could fall behind if you don't know anything about coding. I'd say knowing how to code is almost as important as knowing how to speak English if you work in any kind of technical role. That's because coding permeates just about every product in the industry. So, if you're in charge of making product demos or making design decisions, it helps a lot if you at least have a background in coding. And with that, 2024 promises to be an exciting year in tech, but also filled with some uncertainty. Will tech companies start hiring again? Or will AI continue to replace more jobs? Whatever your goals are for the new year, I hope this video has helped you gain some perspective on how the industry continues to evolve as you make important career choices. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to click subscribe for more videos like this one. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.